Hey guys, welcome to Level Up session 34. We are here today with me, Wojtek, Darek
Hey
Zabrocki,
guys.
and our awesome guest, James Paick. Hey James.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We're very happy to have you with us today, James. I think most people here are aware of you and your work, but still, we will have a little introduction about James's work. So James is the creative director at Scribble Pad Studios, which is James Studios doing production work for games mainly, if I'm not mistaken. You can see the amazing work if you go to scribblepadstudios.com, and there you will find lots of awesome concept art that you can just drool over and make you, feel bad about yourself. That's kind of what I experienced. Like I'm a huge fan of James. I told him that he's one of the reasons that I got more serious into concept art. So I'm very happy to have him here. And his portfolio looks like how I wanted mine to look like, but it doesn't, which is sad. Okay, so you can also follow James on Facebook. So just look up James Paick on Facebook, and you can follow him there for updates. So if you want to stay up to date to what James is up to. And James is going to do a demo for us today, and after that we are going to probably just talk about some other stuff like Gumroad and James' new project Brainstorm, and maybe do some overpainting and so forth. Okay, so as usual guys, if you have questions to James, just put them in the chat. Start them with question in caps so that we can pick them out. If we don't pick your question, please don't get mad. It's probably because we're too lazy or you've answered it 100 times before. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more disclaimers, guys? I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I will pick up questions from the chat, so guys feel free to
Okay. All right.
type them in.
Yep.
Okay, so James, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
If you don't mind, before we get into the demo, would you mind telling us a little bit about your history and how you got into this whole business?
Sure. Well, I've been always sort of a kind of drawing my whole life. As a kid, just trying to do all that kind of fun stuff, drawing robots and cartoons and whatever you see from TV and movies. And that was just the natural progression of eventually kind of getting into art school. Art school was I attended Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Studied illustration over there, but as illustration became a direction to just understand how to draw and paint, entertainment design became the focus later on.
Okay.
So within some of the focus of entertainment design, started to learn more about digital painting, learn more about just design in general from people like Scott Robertson and Ryan Church, and people like that were able to teach at the school to kind of give a brief introduction of what all this was. And it was one of the most exciting kind of experiences that I ever had the pleasure of experiencing, with art and design being a very, very fun outlet. So
Yeah.
that was the basic start. I worked for many different small companies and small studios right after school, and it became a very, very good experience of just learning kind of the what I wanted to do. And within video games, that was definitely the kind of channel for me. So
Yeah. So, were you living near art college? Like, were you fortunate?
after working in a few studios, was able to work on a.
We're having some connection problems.
Yeah, there's some connection problems going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here again.
James?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
you're just dropping out a little bit, so we missed a couple of sentences, I think.
I see. So what was that question about art school?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if you happened to be near art college, or were you just, I mean, were you lucky enough to attend this amazing school, or did you move somewhere to be able to go to it?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I used to live right next to the school, but
Okay.
for, but for about, I don't know, for over half my life, I didn't even know that that school existed. You know?
Right. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a coincidence. The best school in the world for this kind of stuff. Right next door. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was kind of the thing. And actually, in high school, we took a field trip to art center in our art class, and then that's what really got me exposed to this high level of design and artwork that was actually happening.
Yeah, yeah. So you were kind of unaware, and then that time you sort of discovered it.
Yes, definitely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, because I mean, 10 years ago, the scene, the concept art scene looked completely different than it does today. It was completely unconnected, not like today where everything and everywhere in the world, everyone sort of knows what's going on. So it was much harder to break into the industry, I guess.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if people are asking some questions. Um, okay, I think we're good for now. So yeah, maybe James, if you want to jump into Photoshop and we can maybe start the demo.
Sure. And you guys can see I have Photoshop up and running. Just want to make sure that you guys could see that.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
The
cool.
screen is on yours right now, man.
So we're good? It's you guys can see Photoshop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm just going to be sharing a little bit of my working process, kind of the workflow that I use on a daily basis, whether it's in video games or film or any other kind of design illustration, kind of always start things the same way. So I'm just going to jump into this quick demo. Please let me know if you guys have any kind of questions or anything like that.
Yep.
And I'm just going to basically just start painting. Initially, I'll tone down a lot of my canvas. And we'll just see kind of some of the basic shapes that kind of come up. What I'm thinking right now is some sort of an organic kind of land environment, a little bit alien with some weird and interesting shapes. But first, before I go into that, I'm just going to grab a couple of photos for some...
James, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
I think when you picked the screen share, you didn't pick full screen, so now we can see Photoshop, but we can't see your canvas. So
Okay, got it. Let me just fix that.
Just redo it and pick full screen, and that will share everything in Photoshop. There's something.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
now it's working.
Now we can actually see the canvas. Yeah.
Great. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm just going to pick a couple of photos, just find some reference of things that are kind of fun and that I can kind of brainstorm off of. Some of these things are pretty interesting, just like lava, dried up lava. Looks very alien. And beyond that, I'm just going to get some reference of sky, some sky tone. And with these references here, this is kind of how I like to start. I don't like to get too much reference because it almost ties down my development a little bit. And I just kind of like to look at these and see what kind of interesting things we can kind of come up with based on just these visuals. So let's get started.
So are you also making your own references with camera, or you are just searching somewhere?
I do a lot of online searching. However, I'd love to go out and take my own photos as well. It's also some sort of a pastime and a really good kind of development just on that as well. You know, taking your own reference not only allows you to start really understanding what reference you're needing, but also how to utilize it within your working process. And so beyond just going onto Google and these other websites, it's good to really take some of your own reference and really understand how to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel also like you can get a lot of good design ideas just outside of the, just from walking outside and looking at the real world. Like I always take my camera everywhere, and when I see something interesting, like just today I was walking around here and I saw like an interesting design of a window, and you just take a picture and then later you can photo batch it or model the design or something like that. It's really good to find your own stuff.
That's true.
Oh, he got dropped.
Oh,
Shit.
he was dropped.
Okay. Let me just try to get in contact with him. Sorry guys, we didn't explain James that he has to watch his brushes.
And dimensions of the document.
Hello, sorry about that, guys. Just got it real quick. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, so we think we know what happened. So basically, Google sometimes drops. You're working on Windows, right? Yeah. So, crap. Okay.
Yeah. Not fast enough, man.
Yeah. Let's just wait until he
Do you
gets.
guys hear any echo right now, or is it cool? Is it good?
It's better. Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so he's back. Okay, so James.
I'm using a different browser now.
Oh,
So
okay,
back,
but it's not the
back onto
browser.
Chrome.
It's Photoshop. So you have to make sure that the document size is not too big and the brush size is not too big, because that's why you're getting kicked.
Okay.
Yeah, and just some brushes, when you put them really large, you just get kicked. We don't know why. It's just.
Gotcha. Okay, something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem. So basically, when I'm trying to sketch out some basic ideas, I don't want to confuse and get it and have too many things going on. It's kind of just really keep it simple. And some of the shapes that I'm trying to use are a lot of just these kind of round shapes. So even when I'm trying to think of an environment, it's best to keep it very simple, because it's not about making it too complex, because you want to really show an idea. And usually the kind of most simple idea is going to be a little bit more effective. So now with these round shapes that I have, I'm going to just try to create an environment just basically using that for now. And I have a little bit of sky tone that's allowing me to kind of understand my color palette, my sense of mood, and also my lighting as well. So right now I'm just worried about laying this out into a nice composition with some kind of foreground, middle ground, and background activity.
So you also start with black and white sometimes, because I saw some of your sketches in black and white. I'm wondering.
Yes, I love to do. I like to do a lot of black and white. I think that's like one of the more core foundation things that are super, super important, because everything builds on top of black and white. If you want to get really good at color, if you want to get really good at all these other things, knowing black and white is great. So I actually do a lot of black and white sketching, even in my own time, just to practice and just to kind of improve on the basics.
Okay.
Sometimes I guess there's a lot of awesome techniques out there within Photoshop, especially, that make things very, very fun and very fast. But also some of the foundational things are also very, very important to kind of practice too.
And do you keep it separate, or do you sometimes color your black and whites? Like, would you start in values and then color it?
I'll do actually both. I'll do everything actually. Sometimes I'll take a black and white sketch and try to paint directly over it. Other times I might even just use that black and white as a basis and actually completely redraw it again within color. I kind of feel that sometimes if you change it up a little bit, it's a little bit more fun. It kind of makes it a little different and random as well. So. Yeah.
So you're just exploring different techniques basically to sort of expand your workflow, possible workflows.
Yes. Yeah. It's almost like if you're a baseball player, you want to practice all your different kinds of pitches, different techniques as much as possible. Because sometimes when you're on the job, you're going to get requested to do different things, and so almost staying flexible within that would be really, really good.
Yeah. So basically, like by broadening the amount of techniques that you can use, you can cherry pick what's going to be the fastest or most effective based on the brief job that you have to do.
Right.
There's a question to James. How do you design the architecture in your environments? Do you rely on already existing examples, or do you try to create cool shape designs and graphically? You somehow already covered that, but I don't know, maybe you have some thoughts on that subject.
Specifically, well, a lot of the time when it comes for architecture, it really depends on, first you have to know your theme or what kind of genre you're trying to attack. You know, especially if it's something sci-fi, fantasy, or certain genres like that, there's going to be you're going to probably look for different reference and try to source different ideas based on that initial direction. So for fantasy, for example, you're probably going to look at some castles, things like that, but you're also going to want to look at other things to make it very, very different, something almost that we haven't seen before within our own world. So trying to find reference from nature, from animals, from plants, from undersea creatures, or even weird occurrences within just nature, or anything kind of fun that you can implement would be awesome. It's really, really great. So I try to find other things. Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is that shapes don't have to be limited to what they're usually associated with. Like you can transpose shapes to different genres and stuff, and come up with new design ideas.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh no, he got dropped.
He was dropped again.
It's one of those dropping sessions again.
Yeah.
Crap. It's weird. Sometimes it doesn't happen.
Maybe it's because of the dimensions of the document. Maybe it's too big.
No, because I saw it and it's like canvas.
Sorry about that, guys. But,
yeah.
Let me
Sometimes.
see. Are we back up yet? Let me see.
It's weird that we're having it because your canvas is pretty small, so normally it should be fine.
Yeah.
It's just Google.
So I'll just kind of move a little bit more slower, I suppose. Okay. So you guys could see everything okay now?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. So right now I kind of have a base environment kind of going, just a kind of a larger foreground over here, and got these larger kind of bulbous shapes. Not sure what they're exactly made of, probably rocks and all these other types of interesting materials. But now, at least I have an understanding of some sort of a ground plane, a middle ground as well, and the background is also kind of getting developed also. So now that I have this general layout, I'm going to start concentrating on how I can give it a little bit of texture. So especially with some of these environments that I like to create, it's really about making sure that I could see areas that are not just really close up, but also have areas that are really pushed back into the distance, so you can get a good sense of the overall scale and also how big this world could really be. In this photo over here, this area is very open, so you're not going to have a lot of shapes that are kind of doing this sort of thing. So it's a lot about the sky, the interaction of all this kind of, the land, the horizon, and things like that. Over here, these references get a lot closer in, and you can really see a lot of the texture. It almost feels like it's engulfing us. It's almost swallowing us as the viewer, because it's so dominant on the canvas. So I want to kind of utilize this feeling here and kind of this feeling as well. It gives you a nice kind of sense of what we're looking at.
So would you generally... Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Darek.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you it's a beautiful explanation.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to ask, so would you usually take like a sort of low-angle shot so that you can have very close-up elements, but also like wide open background elements so you can put a lot of scale in there?
Yes, I think the key with reference and also, training your eye is to always look at everything. We get so used to seeing so many things every day that we almost take them for granted. We almost don't appreciate it as much, especially, um, you know, around the world. You see all these different types of things. But when it comes to trying to create art and you're almost trying to duplicate what we've seen before, it really makes you think about it. It really makes you think about, why does a sunset look really good? Why do certain types of lighting, why do those look really interesting, and how come sometimes another lighting situation might look a little odd? So these types of things become very, very fun to sort of experiment with and remember, because it all relates back to some sort of an emotion.
Yeah.
So I always try to think about the emotional aspect of a lot of these things, especially when it comes to the any type of design. When you implement color, when you're involving any of these other aspects, it becomes important to really think about that emotional aspect.
Yeah, you kind of have to be a romantic as well to be a concept artist, right?
Yeah.
Those romantic lighting setups and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So regarding the textures, James, are you sometimes starting with like a photo brush, or do you prefer like painting everything like you started and then just fill with some textures, some of the parts that are painted to make it, more bumped up, or how do you start? Sometimes you are just using the textures only in the beginning, and
Yeah,
creating
I like
the
to actually, this process right here, which I painted in, a few basic shapes, started to understand the overall composition and things like that. That's how I usually go about most of my paintings.
Okay.
But every once in a while, I will do some sort of a kind of photographic bashing at first, and then, because it becomes very random, it becomes very abstract, and you're almost searching and finding designs in a different sort of way. And that is a very, very fun process to use. But it can be a little overwhelming, especially for any artists who might be just starting out understanding
yes,
photo texturing and Photoshop. It can be a little overwhelming. So I would probably start with this general technique of, putting in some general shapes, because it's really easy to paint them in pretty quickly, and then establish a little bit of lighting so you know how to apply your textures. And then once that's kind of done, it's really about just having fun realizing some more of your design. So I like to kind of go in that order, and usually tends to be a pretty fun way to explore out some shapes.
yeah,
I think it's also important to have good fundamentals. Like, to me, it's obvious that your grasp of, like, you have a very solid grasp of fundamentals, because you had absolutely no trouble blocking in the composition with good scale and all those things. So, is that something that you would say you would sort of have to practice first before you get into this, or?
Definitely. I would say, well, just to kind of give everyone an idea of the timeline of what it took me to get to this point was, I've been actively working as a professional for about 10 years now, and before that, um, even within art school, I didn't touch Photoshop at all until maybe the third year, second or third year into the school. They didn't really teach a lot of digital medium back then. We
Yeah.
were just learning how to paint, how to draw, how to mix colors within the palette, do all these kinds of things like that. Very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing was, whenever we're stuck or we have a problem to solve, we would utilize drawing. Drawing through the form, experimenting with more just sketching and things like that. It was a very analog process, so it actually made us look a lot more for the answers. It made us search more deliberately. And back then, we didn't really have the internet as a source as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot more fun. We had to go outside to look at trees. We had to go, to the library to get books. We had to do all sorts of things. It wasn't like everything seems to be online now, which makes it a little bit too convenient.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, people sometimes forget that there's a world out there.
Right. And inspiration starts from outside.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that I always say. Like, I feel that with my own work, because I like to travel when I can, and around the periods that I'm traveling, my art is always more original than around the periods that I'm just working and looking at other concept art online, because you sort of easily get stuck in your surroundings or what you sort of like
Exactly.
your memory is kind of, or your inspiration is kind of limited to what you've recently seen. So you sort of need to refresh that sometimes to get out of cliches and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. I mean, it's very apparent when we're like young kids, we watch a movie, and immediately when that movie, if it's inspiring to us, we'll go home and try to draw it.
Yeah.
We'll go home and try to replicate it. And just that one idea is so powerful because that influences everything that we do. So if we can travel around the world and see different and cool things, imagine what kind of inspiration that'll give back to every artist. So definitely true.
So there's some question. I'll guess I'll sort of paraphrase it. So your approach that you're doing right now, let's say that you would have to do more of an urban environment, like we see a lot of stuff on your website. Would you approach the same loose technique and just sort of block in the shapes with your fundamental knowledge of perspective, or would you use like 3D or a photo base or something?
Something like this. So I would, if it was architecture, whether it's sci-fi, modern, or like a period piece, it's important to realize that these references here, these three references, really dictated the direction of which I went into. So prior to going into a lot of different concept art and doing stuff for the job, it becomes so important to do good research, understanding what type of materials, what type of things that you want to draw, because when you're working on the job, your work is for a specific purpose. You're not just going to get asked to draw something for no reason. It's going to be very, very specific. So if the director or some game designer would want a certain Hong Kong in the 1950s, then you're going to make sure that you find the right reference. Now that if I changed these references into more cityscapes, then it would definitely dictate a lot of what I draw. So it's important to have the right materials to support your idea, the direction, because since we're so visual, the more proper visuals that we set up in front of us will help us become more of a better designer, more focused. So the process is exactly the same. It might be a little difficult to kind of see that within the super organic kind of a demo that I'm doing now, but for architectural environments, it's the same process. I'm just using much different shapes. Remember, I kind of concentrated doing rounder shapes for this environment, but within a cityscape, they'd be probably much more rectilinear, much more perspective heavy, and things like that. But it's the same kind of idea that we're dealing with.
Yeah,
and as you said, it's like if you find a good references and you will have your research very accurate in every way to just find accurate references. It just saves you a lot of time, because if you just use some, as you said, like Hong Kong pictures, but not from the era that you really need to do. It's like you can just lose a lot of time just research it again, right?
Right.
So it's also for speed up your process. So yeah.
I will jump on a little bit different subject. So there is a question. Can you talk about your regular working schedule? What do you
Yeah,
what do you
Wojtek,
go
we can't
through
hear
when
you.
dealing with
You have to
commissions?
get closer to the microphone, man.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Sorry.
It's like you're talking into a well or something.
So what was that question again? The
Don't
daily
know.
workflow?
We have no idea.
It's state in the cave.
Better now?
Yeah, much better. Much better.
Okay. Okay, so can you talk about your regular working schedule? What do you go through when dealing with commissions? What client expects from you? How much time are you usually given, etc.? It's a pretty broad question, though.
Yeah. To answer that question as simply as possible is today's concept artist does a lot of different kind of work. I think before, the concept artist was kind of tied down to only a few different industries, but now it seems to really be all over the place. One good concept artist can actually work in many, many different fields. So because of that, the actual flow of my day-to-day, it actually changes based on what type of clients that I'm working for. So right now, I'm doing a lot of development for game studios. So each week is actually its own. I have to set up my own week, the full week in the beginning to really understand how to meet a lot of the requirements of the studios. Some of them have different milestones, different deliverables and things like that. But on the day-to-day basis, I'm doing a lot of kind of development, doing tons of research, but I'm also doing a ton of drawing and a ton of painting, which makes it very, very, very fun, just in the overall sense. So every day, I'm basically doing some, kind of talking with some clients, seeing what kind of other needs that they need, developing a direction for their new kind of game or IP. Let me see. I don't know if I'm answering the question right.
No, I think you are. I mean,
Yeah, you are.
No, he was dropped again.
oh shit.
This is our technically our best session, right?
Yeah, the most drops since I think Reed session, which had also like 20 drops.
And the most Wojtek in a cave session.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Hey
not
guys,
sure.
sorry about that.
Yeah, I think that question was pretty much answered. We have some more questions coming in. Darius asks, what's your take on using photo textures from Google that is not royalty free? And if you have to, how much should you change it so that it is okay to use it?
I think, that's always a pretty touchy subject, perhaps. It's always been the question over many, many years, I think. And I think just the best thing to do is just start to rely. I mean, at first, I think when you're learning, it's a valid part of understanding how to use textures because, there's such an abundance of a library out there. But when it really comes down to doing, a lot of further development, I would really try.
Shit. Oh, man. Oh, so many drops. Sorry, people. That sucks. That's
Sorry
really
about that, guys.
Yeah.
But I would really try to see if you could take your own reference. I think that would be the next general transition. Creating your own textures, really becoming infused into the process that you're in control of every aspect of it. Photo is one thing where it's such a powerful element that it can easily take control of the artist.
Yeah.
Instead of the artist controlling the photo.
Yeah. It's also something that you build up over the years, right? Like you start to gather your own stuff slowly, and you know what to use when and so on.
Right. I mean, one experience that really allowed me to learn that was I was working on this one project with another artist. His name is Steve Messing, and he's a really, really accomplished concept artist and matte painter. Art department and VFX. So he would shoot a lot of his own reference. He would actually go on these trips to different countries and actually go just to shoot reference.
Yeah.
And that was mind-boggling at the time because, you know, I was like, why don't you just look it up on Google or something, you know? But it later became such an important factor for him to be able to, you know, really create his own stuff. And I kind of took a lot of inspiration from that. So, you know, as you're working, you meet more artists that have different types of you know, process and workflow. You really tend to, or you really start to learn about a lot of this stuff a lot more, which is very, very fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, like, I started out shooting textures for CG textures. That's like before I was doing concept art. That's all I did. And just now, like, all the stuff that I've shot, like, I've shot thousands over the years in different countries, and I can't stress how valuable those are. Like, Google is great and stuff, but if you have a nice location, you can take, I mean, it's digital, so you can take an infinite amount of photos. The resolution is much higher. The quality is consistent. You can pick your own angles. It's the same with shooting references from people. Like, a lot of people have trouble painting figures or something, and it's like, just, you know, get someone, set up a light, and take a photo. You know, like, shooting your own stuff, you're actually in control of your subject and everything. It's so powerful. It's like using the world as a 3D render, you know, engine. Like,
right.
Just do it, and nothing beats it, really.
And I think it just takes an artist to do it one time to really understand how important it actually is, you know?
Yeah.
So.
All right, cool. There's a lot of questions, so I'm going to run through it a little bit.
There's a really cool one. Richard's asked, how do you see the future of concept art?
Let's see.
Rated.
I think concept art is well, first, it's an amazing field. It's not that old, and it is definitely growing. The direction in which it's probably growing is changing from country to country, from slight industry to different industries, such as, you know, theme parks and movies are definitely, you know, a huge contributor when it comes to the concept art field, as well as, you know, all of these other things where a good game IP can affect film, can affect games, can affect you know, toys and everything in between. So concept art is huge, you know, honestly, and I don't really think I don't really feel like it's going to die out anytime soon. It's probably just going to be growing more and more and more.
Yeah.
But there is a change, I think, within where gaming or where the attention actually is. For example, you know, 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, casual games and ISO games, mobile games, were just non-existent, really. You know, now it's a huge part of the industry where you know, it actually created its own genre, basically.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can kind of see stuff like that. You can see different influences around the world, like, you know, free-to-play types of game structure is something new also. But it's a big industry. I think it's just going to keep growing. But for concept art, it's also requiring a lot more from the artist. You know, technology is getting better. Technology can also, you know, it used to be that technology was the thing slowing down the artist. Now technology is so good that it's back up to speed, so the artist is now required to be more inventive, show more details, you know, do all sorts of things to get the quality to be higher.
Yeah. Okay. Here's another question. As an artist with a traditional background, how do you apprehend the difference between traditional art, contemporary art, and concept art? Are the two worlds too different, in your opinion?
I think, you know, with concept art, it's definitely its own sort of genre that is, you know, very representative of itself. However, I think within any type of a focus, I'm truly an artist by heart. You know, I love to do art. I go out and still do landscape painting, plein air painting, go to the museum and draw. I can, you know, enjoy a nice movie and just appreciate the kind of artistry behind it. But concept art is also a field where, you know, it is where it's my profession. It's where my concentrated efforts are all going to. So even in my own time, I'll do a lot of, you know, just sketching, figurative drawing. You know, I'll even do some abstract painting where I'm like, I have these pieces at home where I've just like dribbled paint on the canvas and kind of see what comes out. You know, very, very kind of fine art. But all of those things help me develop towards concept art, you know, because that's where all of my focus goes eventually. So I think, you know, just, and I really don't think there's one rule, you know, it's on an individual basis. Everyone kind of has their own little different ways to develop, and I think that's why it's art, you know. Um, if it was the same for everybody, then it wouldn't really be art. It would just be like following instructions or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, what I also find really cool about concept art is that it's kind of like a convergence point of many other disciplines, because you sort of get to touch on all these other things that have been around for much longer that are similar creative professions, like, I don't know, fashion or interior design, or all these kind of things, furniture or architecture, or all these different things. You have to actually learn about all that stuff if you want to be a really good concept artist, because the more knowledge you have about these things, the more convincing and the more varied stuff that you can actually put out.
Oh, that's very, very true. And I think through the eyes of a concept artist now, when I do go to a furniture store, or if I go, I look through architecture books and things like that. When I find a designer that really pushes the limits, I become so inspired by that,
Yeah.
and it definitely influences how I draw. Just like how we get influenced and inspired when we watch a really cool movie and we want to go home and duplicate it. It's kind
Yeah.
of the same things, finding inspiration into different areas.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons also that makes our job very appealing to a lot of people. Like, at work, when I sometimes talk to like the matte painters or the compers and stuff, they're always like, "Oh, you're in the art department, you're doing concept art. Oh, that's really cool. That must be the best job in the world," because they feel like because you're creating entire images, you don't feel like you're such a small cog in a much larger gearwork. You feel more like you're in control of the whole thing, and that's really satisfying because you have more of a direct feedback of what you're doing. You know, like you immediately get results, and I think that's very appealing to a lot of people.
Definitely. And being just, honestly contributing to any kind of a project in this way is so rewarding. It's so fun. Gosh, I've never really had a day, within my art career where I felt that it's been a waste of time or I'm just too tired. It's always exciting and it's always fun.
Yeah,
Doesn't really seem like a day of work.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel exactly the same way. I mean, we're so fortunate to work on this stuff. I mean, like, working on movies has just been an amazing experience. And then, I mean, I'm sure you worked on Transformers Force, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it must, when you were in the theater, you probably felt like a little kid.
Oh yeah, definitely. Seeing your stuff, or seeing your design, seeing your paintings or whatever on screen, is definitely a super rewarding experience.
Yeah.
And it just makes you want to do more. It just makes you want to try harder and do better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good mindset to have, to always like find every reason possible to push yourself.
Hmm.
There's a little bit more technical question. Kristen asks, do you have to use a photo manipulation to get a job? I'm not keen on it, and I prefer to paint 100% or as much as I can without photos. So
I see.
you have to use it nowadays.
Well, yeah, the part about the job is that it's very, especially production. I'll just talk about production art as a main specific, but um, with a concept artist, because we are tasked to do designs, and there's always an end goal in mind, such as the end product video game or some sort of a milestone of the deliverable, something like that. We also have to keep in mind that this is for the larger picture of it all. It's for business, right? And the concept artist, even though we are in the business of being an artist, a designer, there is a factor of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so photo bashing and using photographic elements was never the only intention to really do that was to speed up. Everyone in the industry, or at least before, that were able to utilize these photo techniques had a very, very, very strong foundational understanding of art and design to be able to even control what the photo is doing. It's not necessarily the photo that makes it happen. It's the artist's decisions of how to use those elements that make it important. So, in today's industry, there are some projects and some companies that will purely want all their textures painted. I still believe like World of Warcraft is still like that. So there are companies that still say we don't want to use photos and we want everything painted. That is one side of it. However, there are also other sides where want to see things a bit faster. Working in feature film, it's a lot faster paced. So you will have these requirements of delivering designs very, very, very quickly, and almost utilizing the photo bashing, photo techniques are one of the ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like you said, it's like all about the time factor, right?
mm-hmm.
That it's like it's to speed up the process, and you are still the creator, and the photos and the textures are only the tools for you. You can still prepare
Exactly.
like painting everything, but if you have it done it on the time, and you don't have like 1 week to finish one concept, you have to make like 3 concepts per day. You have to use it because it's kind of natural for you to be faster. So maybe you can use also 3D or any other tool, but you are still a creator, and if you have a full control, like James said, over what you are doing, it's all right. It's quite normal in concept art industry. So.
Mm-hmm. And one thing is important to realize is they don't necessarily care about how the image was made.
Yeah.
That's the process of the artist. They really care about what design you create.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's your design sense that becomes much more important than your process.
Right.
The final image, yeah. And I also think it's important to make a separation between doing work or doing a job and being an artist from like a sort of hobby or passion kind of point of view. Because you can still paint, paint your personal stuff and work on your painting skills. But when you're doing a job, what you have to do is you have to get the best result possible in the least amount of time. And that, like we said before, that just comes down to knowing which technique to apply when. Am I going to use 3D here? Am I going to photo bash? Am I just going to lasso paint? Every technique has its benefits and its drawbacks, like with everything. And your job is to figure out what to do when, so that you can deliver in time and you can deliver the best possible result.
Yeah. You are here to solve the company's problems with visualization, their ideas. So
Yeah, and they're not paying you for your preference. They're paying you to
exactly.
deliver.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah. So I think for a lot of the very well-known professional artists that I know, they always have a some sort of a side project, not project, but some side art, some side development that they're doing, a little personal project, or at least some practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to sort of keep your mind fresh and still enjoy the more traditional approach of making art.
Mm-hmm. And also sometimes when you're on the job, you're just there's a lot of art direction happening, so sometimes just doing something for yourself is great.
Okay, here's a question. At the end of the day, is it an exceptionally good design that matters, or a design nearly as good just sold to the producers in a better manner during the production pitch? kind of a tricky question.
Let's see. I think that I've seen both.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Exactly.
it's kind of a, it really depends sometimes, you know, on who you're working with, on the studio. Um, you know, unfortunately, there are occasions where the studio's main focus is just to put something out, you know, out as quickly as possible. Sometimes another studio will take the time to really make sure it's a good product before it goes out. And so right there, you'll see the two main factors of you know, of just that. You know, sometimes it'll be a lot about, you know, having the right design. You know, the right design is very, very important. And sometimes, you know, when you have maybe gosh, there have been other cases where the design is very secondary to how kind of cool or how sexy it could look on screen, you know?
Yeah. I think for a lot of productions, it's also a matter of priorities. You know, if you have something that needs to be designed and it's like a hero design, then obviously they are willing to spend more resources into it than things that are more secondary. You know, like for example, if you look at let's say like Oblivion, the bubble ship, which it's such a prominent ship in that film because it's the main ship and it's almost like a character that they got like a really good designer and spent like half a year or more just designing that one ship. If you have something like Star Wars, then there will be like tons of ships, so it's more possible that smaller ships that you don't really see on screen in much detail will be designed a lot faster and rougher, and maybe the designs are not as, you know, thought out or original, but just because it's not a priority of the production, and they have to sort of, you know, manage their money and all of that.
Right, definitely true.
James, there is some question about your tool presets, and I already wanted to ask the same. That you are using the tool presets window all the time, and you are getting the brushes from there, right? It's like
Yes.
you're not using the palette. You are having your tools prepared, and just, you know, picking the one that you want to use in that one time, right?
Yes, with my tool presets, I kind of utilize them as like just my brush, like my brush palette. Since I was kind of more traditionally trained at first, I relate everything back to how it is if I was actually painting. And when you're actually painting, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will know, that you only can have a certain number of brushes, you know, and that becomes sort of my way to control how many tools I'm using at a given time, you know.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these brushes that are over here in my tool preset are very, very kind of the traditional types of brushes that you will see, almost mimicking some sort of a marker or, you know, some sort of actual paintbrush. You know,
Perfect. Yeah.
I don't really use these kind of hard rounds, which are more of the kind of Photoshop defaults. I use them once in a while. However, it feels a little artificial for me, you know, because I'm just used to using markers and brushes and stuff.
Yeah, it looks like a Photoshoppy.
Yeah, and so anytime I could have it where I can get some of this dry brush, you know, lift off at the end of the stroke, things like that are things that I really, really like to use. So if you kind of even just look at my brushes here, there are some that kind of go into textures and things like that, but even when you've seen me draw or paint this environment, I'm probably only really utilizing about 3 brushes. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
3 brushes and just a little bit of photo. So this kind of goes back to just some of the art training we had back at Art Center. They would tell us about how these old Renaissance painters had such limited tools, but they were able to create these masterpieces.
Yeah.
And we're like, wow, that just makes it that much more impressive, you know?
Yeah, it can be also very distracting if you have too much brushes, because you are still, you know, you will still be using probably, like you said, like 3 or 5 brushes at the end. By the way, it's like depending only on, you know, relying only on the brushes. It's not also cool if you want to paint something, right? You can still
Right.
have the same. You can
It's
still
like
have the, yeah.
I mean, the brushes, like we've said it a billion times in every episode. The brushes don't matter; it's how you use them.
Yeah,
It's how you
exactly.
use.
Yes.
And you know,
But a
and it
lot of
really
people
comes down to
still think, right, that it's
yeah.
really matter. But
Well, I think, I mean, in my personal experience, I also only use a couple of brushes, but I have a load, and it's just sometimes you can compare a large brush sets with having large reference libraries. Like sometimes you just want to have something quickly, like forests or leaves, and then you just use a brush like
yeah,
this.
of course, some of them are pretty, getting just ready to use.
Yeah,
But
exactly, and it just speeds up your work. But at the end of the day, it's all about your fundamentals, and you can use any brush to create any shape, pretty much.
yes,
That is correct. That is definitely correct. And sometimes when you go into some actual productions, they don't give you internet access. They don't. They actually limit down a lot of the resources just because of safety issues
Yeah,
and things leaking out.
yeah,
So sometimes if you're in that position and you have a certain workflow and then they take that element out, you don't want to be that person that's kind of like, I'm in trouble because I don't have internet or something like that. You
yeah.
definitely want to be resourceful and make sure that you can perform even without some of those things that we might be used to on a daily basis.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, and actually that kind of brings me to another question. Diego asks, how do you inspire yourself in order to get new ideas?
Um, Inspiration for me stems from everywhere, from just even I try to go outside as much as possible. Try to go for walks or go jogging or do something. But
hmm
the more that I can go outside and examine real nature, the more that I feel that I find better inspiration.
Hmm.
And I think some of the things is, and one of my thoughts is this, is that when you're looking at photos of things that are already built, things that are built by man, things that have been invented by just our civilization, you're already stemming off of an idea that was thought of by another person. So it's almost like you're kind of regurgitating an idea from someone else instead of stemming from the actual source of where they looked. So a long time ago, I went to a workshop with, and Craig Mullins was the artist, and he was saying, he was like, I know, and it wasn't in a egotistical way, but it was very insightful. When he said, I know a lot of artists look at me, Craig Mullins, um, as a source for inspiration. However, you should not look at me, but look at the guys that I'm looking at. Look at the traditional painters. Look at the traditional artists and designers that he gets inspiration from. And that became such an eye-opening statement because he really just said that, I'm just like you guys. I have to find my inspiration um, in certain ways, and this is where I find it. So, he looks at a lot of nature. He looks at a lot of traditional painters. Very very kind of um, uh, other sorts of inspiration sources. Things like that that just aren't from other artists from
Yeah.
today's era and things like that. Just going everywhere.
Yeah, so it's kind of like just going back to basics so that things don't become too derivative, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, we were saying it before, but it's just so important to get your inspiration not from other concept art, because the more concept art I see, the more I see how everything is becoming sort of monochromatic, and you see the
hmm
same stuff, and people are making cool paintings, but you tend to lose the
yeah,
excitement over them because you feel like you've seen too many similar things over and over again, even though they're good, and
Definitely.
that's kind of a pity. And you see that when people come up with something fresh, people get really excited about it just because
yeah.
you have to.
So
And I mean, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do you have, James, any good resources you can just tell to the people, like good books or documents that you can suggest to people, get inspired, or hello?
Jake.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sorry, we couldn't hear
Yeah.
you.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there are a couple of books that I really, really, really kind of find super important to what I like to do and what I like to kind of reference from is there's one book called Edgar Payne's Outdoor Composition, and that's pretty much a book where I've almost read it many, many times to just understand it more thoroughly, and it's kind of the foundational book of just understanding composition, which I really, really love.
Yeah.
And another book is actually called Framed Ink. That book is an
one.
awesome, awesome book. And it becomes one of the resource books not only for concept art as an artist, but also starting to understand how composition works with figures, how to tell a good story within just composition and shapes, how to, this also goes into a bit of storyboarding and understand the technicalities of filmmaking. So it's a really, really awesome book. I have a collection just like painters, John Singer Sargent, Leyendecker, all these other kind of illustrators that I really admire. So that in itself kind of gives me some good inspiration for art, for ideas, for production. So it kind of stems off in many, many different ways. So those are some actual some really nice books that I like.
Yeah, I think Framed Ink. Framed Ink's already on the Level Up website. I think Mache or someone also suggested it.
Yeah, a couple
if
people.
the first one, if you want to, you can write us the name of the book in.
The first one is Composition for Outdoor Painting by Edgar Payne. Darek already posted a link to it in an events page. So
okay. Yeah, and we will add it to the website as well, to the resources page. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, the resources page is growing really nicely. We also want to thank people who have.
Yeah, we go. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's becoming huge. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah, it's like we receive a lot of emails every week with just proposals. It's quite cool.
I don't even have the time to look through all of it. So much.
Yeah, of course.
But it's really cool. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, let me look at the questions. Okay, this is interesting, and maybe this can get us to the brainstorm subject as well. James, how do you create your own briefs when you paint for yourself?
How do I create my own briefs? So whenever I do any kind of a personal painting, it's good to create some sort of boundary. The boundaries being either some sort of a genre, some sort of a subject matter, and whenever we're painting something, and this is probably one of the most important things to it, is we have to think of what the function is of that piece of art. A lot of the time, I think when I see some student work and things like that, it's very good on the technical aspect, but it almost doesn't have the proper function or purpose that concept art would have within the studio. Meaning, there's concept art is not all the same. Within different areas of the production, you're going to be required to be doing different types of art. So within the personal art side, I try to create some of those boundaries to almost try to think of it like if it was a real production. Okay. So I would give it a theme. I would say, okay, I'm going to concentrate on a more tighter shot or an establishing shot or something like that. Maybe even something that's derivative of a specific narrative, a specific point or story point within the overall the overall theme. So that's what I like to do, and a lot of my personal work is just trying to be, okay, I'm going to do an actual series of doing an establishing shot, cropping in closer in and doing a more detailed element of maybe a bit of architecture, than doing an interior. So I actually try to connect all of them together. So it actually seems like I'm actually doing something for an actual client or a studio.
Yeah, I think that's a really good exercise for people because it would also force them not to limit themselves. Like, you know, if you, it's much easier to do one environment and just make sure that that kind of looks good than to do several environments from the same place, and that forces you to deal with problems that otherwise you can sort of avoid if you're sticking to one image. Because you have to show certain things from other angles and so forth. You can't sort of mask it by, you know, just having a single piece.
Right. And regardless if you're working within film or games, the end product is that they're going to have to build it, whether in practical sets or in 3D. So the environment artist and the concept artist really needs to know what they're designing, because someone will come back to you and say, hey, what is this area down here? I don't understand these loose brushstrokes. What is it? You know, and things like that, because you're going to have to realize that this space is going to be a real space. You know, although maybe the camera or the player will, you know, run through it. So it's good to know what
happens
the
every
space is
day,
about.
though. Yeah, I remember my first job when I was working in a film studio in Germany. I was doing like prop designs, and I wasn't really used to it. Like I had to design some guns and stuff, and then they had to be built. And obviously, when you're drawing, you're always making mistakes, and certain things are not going to work in 3 dimensions that kind of look right. And I remember I had to go to the prop department at some point to talk with the guys about the design. And when I entered, they were like, really like, oh, concept artist. Oh, those guys. Yeah, making nice drawings. Yeah. And then, you know, leaving us with all the crap to clean up. And you'd be surprised how many different departments in production actually feel this. I mean, they all love what we do, but they also hate us because we draw, and a lot of times we get away with stuff and we don't have to do the problem solving because we're focusing on the overall thing. But yeah, there's, like James is saying, there's someone who's going to have to figure out what it exactly is, and if you can help them, then it's going to make the end product much better.
Right. And as a concept artist, you have to realize that, you know, that's our main job, is to forward the idea to the other department and make sure that we've created a nice blueprint and a nice roadmap for them to follow. Yeah. And the better we can do that, the better of an asset you are to that company or to that studio, making you much, much more valuable, you know, to them. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I think that's something that most of our viewers are having a problem with, is that everyone in the beginning, when they want to get into this kind of job, they're like, oh, I have to become an awesome painter. I have to learn my fundamentals. I have to learn, you know, how to paint, how to use 3D, how to photo bash, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you have to learn all those things, but what you can't forget is, like what James is saying, like, it's not all about making art. A lot of it is just about making a good design or making something that explains something to someone else. And so a lot of production art, definitely in film, doesn't look that great. Like, I've done tons of stuff that I'm never going to put on the web because it just, no one gives a crap, basically. But it's got to be done, you know. You have to do orthographic views, and you have to do, you know, all these kind of different things that help the production that maybe don't seem as exciting, but they're just a requirement, and you have to focus on that as well, being able to tell other people in the pipeline what something's going to look like, you know, instead of just making pretty pictures.
Definitely true.
It's also
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Just you know, painting pretty pictures is and you know, those really nice kind of beauty shots are always fun to do. But that becomes that's actually a very limited part of the overall process.
Yeah. Now the truth is out there. We're not such big rock stars after all. Yeah, and for the people who are coming to the workshop that we're doing in London this summer, it's called Industry Workshop because we're really going to focus on industry. So it's not so much about just being an awesome painter. It's about being an awesome asset to a production, you know, being good at being an asset to a company so that they want to work with you and not with someone else. And really, like, does not only have to do with being a good painter. It has to do with a lot more things that you have to know, from a sort of production or business point of view.
Yeah, definitely. And you're going to be working next to people, different personalities, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. So also making sure that you have you can vibe well with the rest of the art team. Very important.
So take some counseling and some psychology classes, guys. You know how to deal with difficult people because you will encounter them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some people's jobs just within the studio is to make sure that they don't spend too much money, or you're just some jobs are just to make sure that the schedule is being met. So you definitely will run across some people that are that will let you know their thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe let's change the subject a little bit. Kristen is asking, can James go into further detail about his Gumroad tutorial? So maybe we can talk a little bit about this whole tutorial
revolution
going on.
Yeah. Sure. Is there anything specific more about that, about Gumroad, or
actually, no.
Asking for, or?
It's actually not really a question, I guess.
Well, okay, then I guess I can just briefly explain what stuff I have there, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. We
Sure.
will do that.
Yeah, I have a couple of Gumroad tutorials that are up on my page. They actually kind of go into many different directions for some of the art. A lot of what's broken down with some of the tutorials are sort of a beginner, intermediate, and advanced sort of breakdown. There are the fundamentals of just basic environment design, which are understanding the rules of composition, perspective, lighting, values. That's sort of the kind of basics environment tutorial set. After that, once you kind of learn those, there's another tutorial set which is called Creative Environments for Games, which kind of goes over the building process of how to utilize the information of what you just learned and apply it into a more functional aspect for video game design. And this just kind of explores the ways that people can brainstorm, they can think of ideas, they can collect their thoughts, and how to apply that to the illustration. So that's sort of the kind of build up for that. And on the advanced side, there are other couple tutorials that just basically bypass all of the beginning and intermediate stuff and then just go into actual genre creation, how to create different themes, how to utilize different shape language to communicate sci-fi or fantasy, and creating different moods. So there's a whole different slew of videos for almost any artist at their different stages of development. But one of the things that I've gotten feedback from some of the viewers is that even the most basic stuff, the basic elements of perspective rules, of general composition, it's really good to kind of go over those again as like a refresh, kind of like a refresher course, because those fundamentals will never go away. It's always the most important part of the foundation. So, and everything kind of gets built on top of that. So that's sort of the kind of general outline of some of the tutorials that are available on my Gumroad page. So feel free to check them out. And there are going to be more tutorial sets coming out pretty soon to complete these the environment basics set, as well as the creative environments for games. So that should also be out pretty soon as well.
Great. Awesome. Okay, thanks. So yeah, and Darek has also just finished his first Gumroad tutorial, so we will probably post that in Level Up soon if you guys want to check it out. I also have some stuff. I have a sci-fi one, and I have my custom brush panel there as well. So actually, if you want to check out stuff from more artists, one of our previous guests, Gavril, actually set up a website where he's collecting...
I can show that website, right?
Yeah. So it's called kiwijuice.net, and if you just go there, you will find everything. It's also on our website. You can find a link to Kiwi Juice, and maybe we're thinking if Gumroad really gets big, we might actually just do an integration, direct integration into the Level Up website, so that you can get cheap tutorials there as well. Because there's just so much content now, and I'm really fearing a little bit for big schools and other things because yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
could definitely affect it in
it's
certain ways for
shifting
sure.
education. I think it's good, and nothing beats a real school and real teachers and real interaction with people and students. So it's never going to replace it, but at least it's an option for people who don't have an option. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, for a lot of people, just even understanding what concept art really is, and for me, when I was before going into art school, and I'm sure maybe some of you guys are like this, my parents didn't want me to go to art school. They wanted me to go to a normal university and kind of do that whole route, and art wasn't necessarily that supported, within my household at that time. So I really had to kind of push them and explain to them all these different things, and even these tutorials and these professionals that are working in the industry sharing a bit of their information and sharing what they know how to do is also a very good way to almost influence some of the people around you to say, hey, this is what's happening around the world, not on a small scale but on a huge scale, and these are the things that people are working on, and it's not just art as a hobby, but it's art as a very professional career and a professional industry. So, the things are shifting. I think within history thus far, within mankind, art has never been at the exceptional level that it is today. It's never been viewed as such a profession, as a real career than it has ever been within history. So this is definitely a time to kind of take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, and it's time for us to show the world, or people who are sort of, unaware of it, that there is a huge industry out there. I actually got a message from someone one day who's going like, "Hey man, I would really appreciate if you could write to my mom how much you earn every month, because she won't let me go to art school."
Oh, that's awesome.
So I did it. I was like, okay, sure. Why not?
Well, that's great.
I hope that turned out well for him.
And yeah, I think it just takes, because a lot of people just don't know about this industry. They really just are a little bit kind of underexposed, perhaps, and it just takes a little bit of understanding, a little bit of explanation, I think, to get the ball moving.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the online community and things like Facebook and Level Up, of course, that we can make that gap a lot smaller.
And I really think if back when I was going to Art Center and trying to learn about this stuff, having a resource like Level Up is so amazing, and it's very kind of giving back to the community, giving back to the artists and to the students as well that want to just learn this type of stuff. Gosh, I wish I had this type of resource back then. So it's really awesome that you guys that this is happening.
Thanks,
man. Yeah, we just thought that what you already told, that we didn't have that kind of opportunity in the past to learn and to teach and in that way what Level Up is doing. So yeah, it's kind of cool that that the guys like you are with us on the sessions, and we can also get the knowledge from you, and it's like double benefit. So
yeah, definitely.
Honestly, for me, I feel like I'm always a student. I'm always looking to learn more, and I love watching other tutorials, and I'm basically just the same as everyone else. And so I think that's what's the cool part, is that it's just about the art spirit, and there's no ego, there's nothing else involved. That's I know more than you. There's always someone that knows more. That's the thing. There's always someone that's better. So
yes.
I don't like being just kind of respectful and humble about the whole thing is always good, I think.
Yeah, and we're all just people, you know. We're just very normal people with the same emotions and the same everyday troubles, and it's good
Exactly.
for people to understand that there's no divinity involved in any of it. It's just hard work and dedication.
Definitely true.
Okay, James, can we talk a little bit about Brainstorm?
Sure. So Brainstorm was created by just a couple of guys. It was myself, as well as another artist, John Park, and there's some other people that are kind of involved within kind of the actual kind of just the brainstorm itself. But what Brainstorm really is, it's sort of just a collective kind of community of artists that just want to learn and share. Um, we have some, Brainstorm, or excuse me, Gumroad, with some of our tutorials there, we are able to set up a lot of information. It's a lot of information that's getting broadcasted. But as an instructor, we really understand that, giving the information is one thing, and then understanding and practicing it is another. So Brainstorm is a way for us to kind of almost concentrate some of that information and see how people start to apply it, and they're able to give each other feedback, give each other some critiques, as well as also having some professionals as well do some of their critiquing as well. So
Yes.
it's just another outlet of just sharing, and doing things like that. So
Yeah, I think it's really amazing that someone of your caliber is willing to spend his time on that and giving like free help to people who really need it. It's really awesome.
I think because touching on that note is I reflect back on my schooling years, and I remember really key instructors who would take the time. They would take the time out of their day. They would take time, from their lunch hour to spend with me and just talk to me about what I need to improve on, what I'm doing well. And I think that almost like that mentorship that was established is so important, to the art spirit. And if you kind of look at art history over the centuries, that's always how it's been. There's always a mentor, there's always an apprentice that kind of learns and passing the information. Whether it's free, whether it's through school, whether it's through meeting somebody, but I think that is always necessary, to always kind of give back.
Yeah, it's a lovely mindset. But yeah, I mean, you couldn't be more right. I mean, we have to pass on our information and think of the future. The children are the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so guys, if you want to join Brainstorm, go to the Brainstorm group on Facebook. Just look for it, you'll find it. There's a lot of people there. It's already very active in a short amount of time, so you can do some cool stuff. And James, if you would ever like to collaborate between Brainstorm and Level Up, we would gladly do that, because I think there's some similarities in the platform, so it'd be really great to get people all connected.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Definitely, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay, I'm gonna have a look at the questions.
So, like, I don't know what.
Sorry, can you say again?
Oh, I was just gonna say this painting is sort of it kind of happened really quickly, kind of over the conversation a little bit as well, but kind of just going back, if I can kind of just go over some of these steps, if they're kind of interested
that would be
in seeing
great.
it.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
there's a illustrator saying that the composition, you want to discover the composition very early on.
Yeah.
And you almost want to set it down within the first 20 minutes of your painting. And that's not something to kind of put a time limit on yourself on, but it's just goes to kind of give you the idea that within the first few minutes, you want to explore as much as possible. You want to put down different strokes, different shapes, different lighting moods, and everything that you can to just figure out what you want to do. And so after experimenting a little bit, this is kind of the composition that we settled down on. And even within here, it's kind of changed drastically from just that composition. So once I kind of had this and established a little bit of my lighting, even though this is kind of a lower sunset kind of backlit type of feel. I'm able to at least describe what all these forms are doing now. So that's basically the build-up process from here. Is once I had the composition, once I kind of had my base lighting and mood, it was really about trying to pull these forms out and make sure that they're working in unison and trying to create a theme of all that to happen. So I'm just going to kind of walk through some of these steps a little bit here and kind of go over that. But
so you're going from big to small, basically, and you're looking for a consistency between all the different elements.
Definitely. And even now, once this is kind of established, I'm also now thinking about how can I go from, again, the big to the small. So going down a little bit deeper, thinking about different elements and just really kind of involving the piece just a little bit more. So you can see things are getting experimented with. I try different things, and if it doesn't work, I'll just delete it. But I think one part of that everyone needs to understand about art is that there's no perfect way to do it. And even though if you do it one time and it doesn't work, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again, because it's an ever-going process.
Yeah.
And you'll probably make 99 wrong decisions before you make the right decision, and that's part of learning, and it'll get better and it'll get faster as you go. But try to fail. Try to push yourself to the point of oh man, this isn't working, and just try to keep on going, figuring it out, look at more reference, draw through the forms, doing all these different kinds of things that help other artists kind of get out of that jam.
Yeah, and I think interacting with other artists is also very important. Like I find, since Level Up, me and Darek and Wojtek, sometimes we just meet up on Google Hangout and while we're painting, and then just send the images to each other and feedback each other. And it's so surprising how someone who looks at a piece for the very first time has such a fresh look and is able to pinpoint the most obvious large mistake that you could just not see for yourself.
Yeah, of course. It's definitely when you are spending a lot of time on the one painting and you just, staring at it for hours. An artist, you just need to get, some fresh look on it. And it's pretty cool to ask the guys that you can just ask and, for some help or some overpaint or, just pointing some mistakes. It's quite cool and quite important for us, I guess. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think some of the most important learning that I've ever had happen was with my peers. Was with emailing each other and saying, hey, can I get a quick crit or a paint over, and seeing what other people are seeing within your art. I think that was one of the most valuable stuff for me as well too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you can always do like this because every of us has a different, perception and point of view on some things. And sometimes if you even think it's quite cool, you can just get the feedback that create the picture even better, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely so.
Yeah, and I even find that it can also help not to ask someone who is actually not a professional or a painter, because even people who have no understanding of the technical side of art still have a very true eye. Why are you laughing?
We just had one guest that he was Andrew Rabachev.
Yeah, he said the opposite. I know.
And he said that he doesn't let non-professionals to comment his work. At first, you just need to get a permission.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, he has a different opinion about it,
Yeah, of course.
His comes more from an art appreciation point of view. I think we're more looking for very specific, technical things, like in the composition or in the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like to do that as well. Is show non-artists and see how they react to some of the pieces, because one thing is for certain is we're designing for those masses, the masses of people that don't know art, that don't really know design. Those are the people that we're actually designing for,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good to actually see how they see it, how that translates out.
Yeah, and like you said, their opinion is more important. So sometimes you also have to learn to step back from your own opinion about things. Like you always have opinions about, other work and especially your own work as well. but you have to be able to step back from that sometimes, because sometimes your opinion doesn't matter. You know, it's not the most important thing.
Yeah, since we're artists, we obviously see art in a slightly different way than kind of other people do. So that's also definitely a factor.
It's a bit of a curse sometimes, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of you guys can relate to this when I say, you know, whenever time you go into a movie, it's really hard to enjoy the movie because you're just analyzing everything, or you're studying the design, or you're analyzing the graphics or the VFX or something, you know.
Yeah. I had a sort of a bad period in that sense. Just like the first time I worked on a movie, that I was actually in the studio and I would go to the sets and see how they were made. The first thing I realized is that all sets are entirely made of wood. It's funny, but like the painters are so good, they can make wood look like anything. If you see movie sets and you see like concrete walls and stuff, it's not. It's just wood paneling or sometimes styrofoam or something. But actually, once I knew that, I started paying more attention to the sets when I was watching movies, and I could sometimes even notice, definitely in like the HD days, how crap everything looks and how fake everything looks, and it was taking away the enjoyment of the film for me. That I just tell myself, like, okay, don't look at that stuff and just go with the flow like anyone would, you know, like turn off your brain.
Yeah, becomes difficult.
Yeah. And so, James, when you're done with this painting, can you save the PSD files with the layers and stuff so that we can share it on the website?
Definitely can.
Okay, great. So, people, you can just go to the website. We'll do it soon and check out the PSD file.
I have a question to the James from the chat, and it's from Andrew P. How do you deal with the scale? Sometimes I make a painting and I notice that some of the elements are out of the scale. It's more of a feeling, or it's the more legitimate way?
I think with scale, what's kind of important to realize is one thing is that it's hard to tell if I'm just going to draw a shape here. It's hard to tell that those two are really that different, right? They're pretty similar, and it's just a very small difference. But when you're trying to show scale, especially in this one way, it's good to try to really exaggerate some of your shapes, you know? And I think this will be one way to really understand how scale can work, you know? So one of the biggest fundamental things is that you want to do a big, medium, and small kind of understanding of talked about within some stuff, but it's really good to think about that. Also, scale is always based off of, well, at least for us, on the human. Okay, everything in this world, because you know we're the main inhabitants of Earth, is built around our scale. You know, so everything that we relate to is kind of within that factor. So if we can think about not just how big to make things, but what's the relative scale of a human figure, that's also something very, very good to kind of think about as well. So whether you're dealing with a big city scene or a massive forest or you know something that's really small on the ground, you want to kind of relate it back to the human figure and also think about your big, medium, and small shapes so you can really show the difference in scale within the composition.
Yeah, it's also, when it comes to human scale, it's important to realize which things give away human scale. So, for example, a window or something can be enough to you know, show you what the actual scale of something is. But something like a rock could be any scale sometimes. So you have to be aware which things you have to be more careful with.
I think when you're, if any of you guys are studying scale right now, and this is like the subject that's in your head, when you go outside and you're just walking around, look for these scale cues. Look for elements that say, hey.
Oh man, bad connection.
Yeah. he's not dropping out.
No, it's just a connection problem, I think. But yeah, it's a good talk about scale. James's scale is always awesome, so he clearly knows how to do it. I think apart from the human relative scale, there's also sort of an absolute scale, and you can do that in patterns. So if you have repeating patterns, you scale those down in the background. Like you can see it if you look back at how James was doing this demo here, that he basically was scaling up and down the lava pattern and placing it in different parts. And because your eye is reading the same pattern, repeating pattern, but your eye is also reading the scale of that pattern, you can help sell how far or close repeating shapes actually are.
Yeah,
Hey,
so I think, yeah, kind of basing that on what you were just saying, that's why I really try to utilize just almost one reference to describe a lot of this land, so I can definitely try to scale it up and down.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just manipulating this one texture and just scaling it, stretching it, rotating it, and just sticking true to that one readable form.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of just goes back to reducing your tools, reducing the amount of things you're actually going to use, because it makes you really think about it some more, instead of just relying on an abundance of materials.
Mm-hmm. People in the chat are commenting to your robot voice. Yeah, there was apparently some connection issues for a minute.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
There's this website, I don't know the name, but you can track basically how something that you're accessing, like a website, how it connects through like the lines that are under the sea and underground. And it's just crazy how the internet is connected. Like it's possible that this is now going from London to through China to New Zealand before it actually reaches you in California.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's crazy. It's insane what's been invented these days.
I know, and we don't even understand how it works. But then if it doesn't, we get really upset. It's like, work, you piece of shit! Oh, this computer sucks. This thing doesn't even work. It freezes for 10 seconds and you're like, this thing doesn't even work. But we don't realize how amazing it is.
And it's funny, just only, a few years ago, people had to dial up, through the internet on their phone. It took even just like 2 minutes just to connect on the internet,
Yeah. There's this website where you can post videos of people imitating the dial-up modems. It's the most hilarious thing. People just go like,
oh, nice.
Those were the days, that's for sure. Yeah. All right. So enough joking around. Let's see if there's some more questions.
Just gonna...
People are asking about overpaintings.
Shh. Quiet.
There's no overpainting.
I was actually going to do it.
We are lazy.
No, don't say lazy, say busy. Oh, man.
Oh,
Yeah, we're busy, man.
You don't know how to play the game, man. James, someone is asking, is there a chance if you would share your tool presets?
Oh yeah, I can definitely share my tool presets. I can send that over to you guys and share that with everybody. The cool thing is just that it's just a basic preset that I think is good just to have for just general palette, just general brushes. And so play around with these. I started to stray away from doing too much of the kind of patterned brushes and stencil brushes and things like that. Kind of like the stamps. So I kind of like to have just feel like it's a natural part of like either a brush or a marker or some sort of a pen, in one fashion or another. So yeah, I can definitely share these and. Please mess around with them. I think that's one of the most important things because I'm used to how these work, but some of you guys might not be used to it. So just experiment with them and have fun. Make adjustments to them, and make them your own tool set as well.
Yeah,
Cool,
great,
man.
man. Yeah, we will add them to the website. We have a section in the resources where we have all the brushes and presets from artists, so we will put them there.
So like a painting like this, I guess, it's pretty much at a stage where we've kind of figured out the shapes, the kind of atmosphere, the tone, and it'll probably, at this point, if it was actual for a real production, I would show my art director or my production designer and say, hey, this is what I'm going for. Let me pull the trigger for the finish.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. All right. So I know, guys, you are asking about overpaintings, and we're probably not going to get to it because we only have like 20 minutes left, and we have to watch the game.
Soccer.
No, football.
Yeah,
silly American.
that's the main difference between America and Europe, right?
Soccer is for suckers. Football is for winners.
That's what. Yeah, I've been seeing so much of that stuff online. That's great.
Well, the USA did pretty good this year.
Yeah, this whole year of football has been it's like a year of the upsets. It's
Yeah.
Things are so different this World Cup. It's really fun to watch.
It's crazy, yeah. It's kind of weird because I feel like it's been very unexpected, a lot of things that happened, but still sort of ended up expected, like almost like it was, engineered. It seems like a good drama show to me, this World Cup.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I don't want to start any conspiracy theories at all. Just saying. So yeah, we will be doing that in 15 minutes. Oh, we haven't had our a weekly question yet, guys.
Oh, snap.
Who wants
Go
the
for
honor?
it.
So, James, would you rather be a Godzilla or a billionaire? And... Ah,
Now he just leaves. He's just like, bye. James?
James, you there? Nope. That was
Maybe he's
that was
doing
rude,
research.
right? Rude question.
No, I want to know the answer.
Yeah, me too, man.
And now everyone in the chat is talking about football.
Yeah.
A lot of German supporters today. Wow. Okay, let me just message James on Facebook.
So, Darek, maybe you can advertise your Gumroad video in the meantime. What's it all about, and maybe you can show us your Gumroad page.
Oh, yeah.
Or the painting. Oh,
Uh,
actually, Darek, man, I made some reference for you just like 2 hours ago. I went back to the armory and I took some like pictures of the knight on the armored horse from the back, like in your painting. So if you want them, maybe you can do
course,
some
man.
photo texturing there.
So basically, my Gumroad is, it can look like it is all about the horses, but it definitely is not. It's all about creating a mood painting that can be used for video game concept art and movie production. And I, of course, focused a little bit more on creating organic stuff like painting horses, painting animals, understanding of bodyworks. And I also got some resources in there, so you can get a bit more insight of me gathering all the references and all the things up. So basically, it's the first part, and I'm going to release a second part pretty soon, maybe tomorrow. In the meantime, I want to also do a bit of more speed painting tutorials, like 30 minutes accurate speed painting for daily speed paint. so everyone will have some insight of creating it with very accurate way. So yeah, I'm just inviting you to get it and check it if you like it. Yeah, I hope you will find it helpful. So
It looks amazing, man.
thanks, man.
Hey guys, sorry, I just got some really bad internet timeout there.
No worries, no worries. It's okay. This is like
So-
when a TV show stops and there's like ads. This is kind of how we.
Yeah.
So we found a way how to.
This is actually the new way of doing ads because it's streamlined to your interests.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
Yeah.
going back to the
Facebook
screen
is
of
gonna start doing.
target demographic.
Yes. At least we're honest about it, Okay, we're sellouts. It's on YouTube. There we go.
There.
So I see that you drew something there, James. So the little mountain with the bee.
Yeah, this was just like a really quick kind of scale exercise thing. I was showing like a large boulder with some of the smaller rocks for some of the scale that we were kind of talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So it's always like trying to complement. If you want to show something big, you have to show something small next to it, and vice versa. It's one of the best ways to create that scale. That was kind of one of the questions that was asked earlier. So I remember when I was at Art Center, we had this visual development class by these guys from DreamWorks. They were all VizDev artists, and that was one of the classes where it really forced us to think more, and draw. There was definitely a requirement of getting our art ability up, but it was such a thinking class, which really made us always examine, how can we make it look bigger? How can we make it look smaller? How can we make it look more real? How can we make it look more damaged? And thinking about those things, doing the right research, was a class where it really told us or showed us how much a designer really has to be mentally focused.
Right. Yeah, that's good stuff. Do you feel like sometimes things like always have to keep getting bigger and bigger and more epic scale? Like, do you sometimes like to go back to more simplistic or smaller things and enjoy the beauty of that? Do you know what I mean?
Most definitely. Oh, yes. I think, one of the things that I actually do with my personal work is I do the opposite of what I'm working on the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when there's these, like right now I'm doing a lot of kind of like world building and just trying to establish some general rules of what these worlds will look like. And sometimes you have to be so pulled back and worrying about the overall things, doing big scale paintings, large establishing shots. Sometimes I like to do stuff that's a little bit cartoony or a little bit more graphic, simplified styles, just black and white. So I like to do stuff that's kind of the opposite, just so it doesn't feel like I'm doing the same thing all the time. Stop calling it soccer.
It's the football belief. It's the Mannschaft, probably. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the fun is balance it out. I think some of the most fun pieces that I've worked on were simultaneously with a project that helps me do the opposite. So.
So now there's the logical next question. Can we see this work anywhere?
Which you mean the personal work?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I haven't really posted too much of my personal work online, but I think now as some of the things that I do on a daily basis actually, well, kind of touching base on that really quick question of what my daily routine is also, is that I still do studies every day, like little 30-minute studies of either film or master copies, some way to warm up in the morning. And things like that. So I actually do that with the rest of the team at Scribble Pad. We do like these studies and just to warm up and just get loose again, But some of that personal work I can definitely post on my Facebook page, so you guys can check it out there.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds pretty hardcore. I mean, studies every day. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I think it's like exercising or going jogging in the morning. It's kind of hard at first, and you have to remember to do it. But when you don't do it, you actually feel like the effects of it. You know, you're like, oh man, I feel kind of off today. Oh, I forgot to do my study. Oh, okay. You know, so you kind of feel the effects, and so
Does it really make?
it
Does it
almost
really
makes you feel. You definitely. What's that again?
Sorry, I was wondering, is the impact really that large that like you could say like, okay, if I do study it, I'm going to actually perform much better after that when doing professional work?
Yeah, I think, but one of the things is that it's not just doing it once or twice, but doing it for a span of time, you know, and keeping
Okay.
it regular, I
Yeah,
think is important. You know what I mean?
it's more like staying in
And
shape.
because when you do, yeah, exactly. And when you do more studies, you start searching for different things to study. You search for more challenges, and it's examining. It's developing your eye. It's also searching for new materials. It's always challenging yourself. So it almost creates this very proactive environment for the artist, just basically just doing studies. So it's kind of multifold help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really good. I mean, I think we should all start doing that actually. I don't do that enough. I don't have the time for it. I mean, where do you find the time?
Yeah,
Because you're running
it's
Scribble Pad
honestly, yeah.
and teaching as well, and it's crazy. Pretty hardcore.
Yeah, but it's something that we all love. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it and
yeah.
it definitely helps along with just everything. So very, very fun stuff.
Yeah, but it means you're getting so much mileage, and you're going to become too awesome that the Earth is going to explode.
Well, that's why they came. I guess that's what the sirens were for, or something.
Yeah, yeah. We need to stop you, James. It's over.
But yeah, I think I mean I love doing art. Like I was saying before, it's I'm really an artist at heart,
Yeah,
and concept art was definitely one of those fields where I could concentrate my efforts. But other than being, other than work time, I'm kind of always doing this stuff. You know?
robot voice.
Either through watching movies or even doing some kit bashing on the side.
Hello.
I think my internet is.
Yeah, we barely heard any of the last 3-4 sentences, I think.
Oh no. What I was just reiterating was I feel like I'm an artist at heart,
Yeah,
and concept art was just one of those avenues where I can concentrate everything. But when I'm not working, I'm still kind of always involved within art or some sort of creation or some sort of design aspect. And so I'm always like kind of studying, just like everyone else. Just want
yeah,
to learn more.
yeah. It's like it becomes a lifestyle, right?
Yes, it definitely is, and
Yeah.
it's a very fun lifestyle to be in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have other friends who, they work at banks or they, work at a very professional corporate kind of a setting. And, we'll just sit down at the end of the day and say, yeah, how was your day, man? And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I had to deal with this and that. I was drawing fun stuff. And at the end of that, they just hate me more.
Yeah, I was just doing, just getting a couple of grand for some spaceships. Sure, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's all about choices, everyone's free to do whatever they like, so,
Yeah, and I wouldn't tell it's easier than getting a job at bank or something. It comes with a price, so it's not like you have to sacrifice a lot of things to get to draw spaceships for money.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
such a big sacrifice and devotion that I don't know. It's just it takes time to be like that thing to be paying off. So it's not like immediately going say spaceships or stuff. It's just
it all comes when you really deserve it. It's not like you have it, from the beginning, like bam, and that's it, like a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a hard work.
Yeah. And like Wojtek says, you have to make sacrifices, but they also pay off in the end, because if you become more successful, you'll get to call the shots and you'll be able to, keep a good social life and do other things in life that you need to do.
Yep.
Is James still with us, or is he gone? He starts the sentence and then it just disappears.
Yeah,
Hey guys. There we go.
Round 2!
Okay, can...
Nope.
damn it.
Okay.
Jonas, you're not helping.
Dude, I'm just trying to keep it entertaining. Jesus, you guys, it's like a funeral here. My God.
Sorry everybody, I'm having some really bad internet troubles right now for some reason.
That's okay, no worries. We're still having fun here. Okay, so I think we will round this up soon. We have like 3 more minutes left. So yeah, it was a really great session, James. Thanks.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man.
It was my pleasure, actually.
Yes, a lot of really good information. I think the viewers really enjoyed it from what I can see.
Yep. And some robotic stuff.
This is
Oh man.
I think James wins the most drops actually in one session.
I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault. It's
No.
hang.
Earned the drop reward.
Woohoo!
Congratulations,
That's awesome.
James. You win nothing.
Thank you.
Our eternal appreciation.
It's coming in the mail.
And yeah, it's perfect time to stop because football's going to begin soon. So guys, thanks for watching. Maybe Wojtek, you can do your usual outro.
My outro. All right.
Oh no,
so...
wait. The Godzilla question, James didn't answer it.
Oh snap! Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
The Godzilla question. Would you rather be a Godzilla or a billionaire? That's the hardest question we are asking.
That's a funny question, but I'd have to say that since even being a billionaire is a cool thing, there's a lot of them in the world, so maybe being a Godzilla might be a cooler standpoint, so you can just crush them all or something.
Awesome. All right, so we got a Godzilla today. Okay, so if you're enjoying what we are doing, please subscribe to our channel. We are trying our best to provide you with the best free knowledge about concept art available online. So feel free to subscribe to stay up to date. Check out our website, fusroda.com. You can view all the resources in there, watch all the sessions, and engage our Facebook community. So stay tuned for the next guest, which will be exactly in 1 week, same hour, same place. We love you guys. We love what you are doing in a group. It's growing. It's growing ever since. It's just awesome how big it is right now.
And don't forget to pray for James.
Pray for James. Yeah. Yeah, you were waiting for that, right, Darek? You were waiting for that.
Yes, of course, man. I love it.
Yeah,
and I always pray for our guests.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Before sleep, like 30 guests. Yeah, man. Awesome. Awesome. All right,
Well,
guys. See you guys next week. Bye bye. Thanks, James, for
Yeah,
coming
bye
again.
bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye bye, man. Thanks.
Thank you. See you guys later.